Before time existed, there was only a void. Silence held the universe in a grip of absolute, suffocating darkness. Nothing moved, nothing breathed. Then, a single command shattered the stillness. Let there be light. The soundless vacuum erupted. Stars ignited in a violent, blinding bloom of heat. Galaxies spiraled outward, carving paths through the infinite dark as the fabric of space stretched wide. The chaos began to settle. Molten rock cooled into solid crust. Oceans surged into deep basins. Mountains thrust upward, tearing through the surface, and forests carpeted the cooling earth in a rapid green expansion. The world hummed with a new rhythmic life. Rivers cut through stone, and the wind began to stir the canopy of the first trees. Every creature found its place in the sudden, vibrant rush of existence. The universe had gone from a silent, empty grave to a sprawling, living masterpiece. In the heart of the garden, the ground shifted. Earth gathered into a form, molded by unseen pressure into the shape of a man. The dust settled, still and lifeless, until a sudden, sharp intake of air broke the quiet. Adam's chest rose, his lungs filling for the first time. He pushed himself upright, hands pressing into the soft soil of the garden floor. He blinked against the golden light, his eyes tracking the movement of birds. He stood, his feet finding purchase on the mossy path. Creatures emerged from the thicket's lions with heavy manes, small deer and birds. Adam reached out, touching the rough hide of a beast, and spoke names into the air. He walked the winding paths, testing the strength of his own limbs, yet his pace slowed as he reached the horizon. He looked at the animals, then back at the empty space beside him. He searched the eyes of the creatures, but found only instinct, not understanding. The garden was full, yet the silence of his own solitude pressed against him. He was the master of the garden, yet he remained entirely alone. The weight of the garden's solitude became too much. Adam sank to the moss, his eyelids growing heavy as a deep, unnatural sleep pulled him down into the earth. The air around him grew still, the leaves of the trees holding their breath. A quiet, surgical precision moved through the space, and from his side, the form of a woman was shaped. She emerged from the shadow of his own frame, complete and breathing. The sun shifted its angle, casting long golden fingers across the path. Adam stirred, the fog of sleep clearing from his mind. He opened his eyes, and the first thing he saw was not the trees or the sky, but the face looking down at him. Eve stood there, her gaze meeting his. He stood, his hands reaching out to steady himself, and their fingers brushed. The connection was instantaneous. A sudden, vibrant energy surged through the garden, as if the world itself had been waiting for this balance. They looked at the winding paths. The isolation that had defined his existence vanished. They began to walk, side by side, their movements synchronized in a rhythm of perfect, unburdened joy. The rhythm of their walk led them deeper into the heart of the sanctuary, where the canopy grew dense and the light filtered down in sharp emerald shafts. They moved past the familiar groves, but as they neared the center, the air grew thin and cold. The vibrant hum of the garden faded into a brittle, unnatural silence. Adam stopped, his hand still resting on Eve's arm. Before them stood a tree unlike any other, its branches twisted into complex, jagged patterns that defied the grace of the surrounding forest. The leaves did not sway in the breeze. They hung perfectly still, as if holding their breath. Even the creatures of the garden kept their distance, circling wide around the perimeter of the clearing. The ground beneath the tree was bare, stripped of moss and flowers. A low, resonant vibration began to pulse through the soil, rising up through their feet and settling in their chests. The voice echoed, not from the sky, but from the very air around the trunk, clear and unyielding. Eat not of this. The command vibrated through the clearing, or you shall surely die. The words hung in the space, heavy and final, carving a permanent line between the life they knew and the darkness of the void. Adam and Eve stood motionless, the warning ringing in their ears, while the shadow of the tree stretched long and dark across the path behind them. The warning lingered, but the garden's stillness was soon broken. From the dark, tangled roots of the forbidden tree, A movement rippled through the shadows. The serpent slid forward, its body coiling around the trunk with a dry, rhythmic scraping sound. It did not strike. It waited. Its eyes were fixed, unblinking, reflecting the dim light of the clearing. Adam stepped back to examine a nearby vine, leaving Eve standing alone. The serpent sensed the shift. It uncoiled slightly, its head hovering inches from her shoulder. A low, sibilant sound cut through the air. "Your eyes will be opened," it hissed, the words sliding into her mind like a blade. "You will be like God." Eve flinched, but she did not turn away. Her gaze locked onto the fruit, hanging just above her reach. Its skin pulsed with a strange, forbidden luster. The fruit looked heavy, ripe with a secret that promised power. She reached out, her fingers hovering near the branch. The serpent remained perfectly still, its tongue flickering once. Eve stared at the fruit, and the garden's beauty felt distant, eclipsed by the forbidden. Her fingers closed around the stem. With a sharp snap, the fruit came free. She brought it to her lips and bit down. The flavor was not sweet. It was sharp, sudden, and final, flooding her senses with a cold, piercing clarity. She swallowed, and the world tilted. Without a word, she held the remaining half out to Adam. He looked at her, then at the fruit, and took it from her hand. He ate. The silence that followed was not the peaceful quiet of the garden, but a hollow, ringing void. Instantly, the golden light that bathed the clearing vanished, replaced by a harsh, gray clarity. The vibrant colors of the leaves drained away. They looked at each other, and the sight was agonizing. They saw not the familiar warmth of a companion, but their own exposed, fragile state. A sudden, frantic instinct took hold. They turned away from the tree, stumbling over roots and pushing through dense, thorny thickets. They tore broad, waxy leaves from the branches, pressing them against their skin to hide. They crouched low in the deepest shadows as the air grew heavy. The air in the clearing stopped moving. Every leaf went rigid. Then, a sound rolled through the garden, not a shout, but a vibration that traveled through the soil and into their bones. "Adam, where are you?" The question did not come from a single direction. It emanated from the sky, the trees, and the ground. It was a sound of absolute authority, stripping away the silence of the thicket. Adam pressed his palms into the dirt, his knuckles white. He could not stay hidden. The voice demanded a response, pulling him toward the edge of the brush like a physical tether. He pushed aside a heavy branch, the thorns snagging his skin, and stepped out into the open. The light was gone. "I was afraid," he stammered, the words barely audible. "I was afraid, for I was naked." He remained there, trembling, as the consequence of his choice began to take form in the silence. The finality of the sentence hung in the air, heavier than the trees themselves. A low, grinding sound began at the garden's edge, a vibration of stone against stone. Adam and Eve turned as the massive gates, carved from ancient wood and reinforced with iron, began to swing inward. They did not move with ease. They groaned, the sound echoing across the clearing like a dying breath. The lush greenery near the threshold withered instantly, the vibrant colors bleaching into a dull, lifeless brown. Adam stepped back, his heels digging into the cooling soil. The gates continued their slow, relentless arc. Eve reached out, her fingers brushing the rough surface of the gate before it slammed into place with a final, jarring thud. The lock clicked a sharp, metallic sound. Outside, the world was not the garden. The golden light vanished, swallowed by a thick, oppressive gray mist. Eve turned back one last time, her eyes tracing the high, impassable walls. The garden was gone. Only the cold, gray expanse remained. The path ahead was not a path at all. It was a tangle of dry, brittle brush and sharp, jagged stones that bit into their feet with every step. Adam took the lead, his hands pushing aside thick, thorny vines that tore at his skin. Behind him, Eve followed, her gaze fixed on the horizon where the gray fog met the jagged edge of the earth. The soil here was hard, packed tight, and resistant to their weight. It did not yield like the soft loam of the garden. They walked for hours, the silence of the wilderness broken only by the crunch of dead leaves and the rasp of their own labored breathing. The air was cold, lacking the warmth that had once sustained them. Yet, despite the exhaustion that pulled at their limbs, they did not stop. A memory remained, a single, clear resonance of a promise spoken in the aftermath of their fall. It was not a physical object, but it acted as a compass, pulling them forward through the desolation. Adam paused, his chest heaving, and looked back at the wall that now stood as a silent, impenetrable barrier. He turned again to the vast, dark expanse that stretched out before them. He reached out, his fingers finding Eve's hand. They stepped forward together, leaving the shadow of the gates behind. The journey of humanity had begun.